Hi, I'm Dave Winkelman, and welcome to this very special Fishing Secrets video. Special because we're going to focus on a fish for all ages. You know, I live in a house with 5 daughters and my wife Charlie, and we sometimes spend the evenings just sitting around chatting. And once in a while, believe it or not, fishing does creep into the conversation. You can imagine who brings that up. Well, anyway, the subject of what's fishing really supposed to be came up the other day, and I had to think about it for quite a while. The girls also asked me, what if somebody told you you could only have one type of fish to go catch from now on, and it had to satisfy all the fishermen? Which one would you choose? Now, believe me, I'm thankful that this question will never be asked, but I knew right away what my pick would be. It was as simple as black and white. Black crappies and white crappies. And the answer to that question got me thinking about the earlier one. What really is fishing supposed to be? That, to my way of thinking, is the true magic of crappie fishing, because it can be everything to everybody. You can start a youngster out in a farm pond or a shallow bay where they'll often catch fish after fish on their first outing. Or you can dedicate yourself to hunting those less numerous trophy crappies, the big black crappies that get even veteran anglers like me really excited. Yeah, crappies are truly a fish for all ages, a fish for all anglers. And I guess if we absolutely had to do with only one fish, it could keep almost everybody happy at least, because crappies do it all. They come into shallow in the spring, first to find warmer water and feed, and later to spawn. Then they make seasonal migrations out into deeper weed lines. And depending upon the part of the country you're fishing, crappies also spend a lot of time over deep creek channels or in shallow flats covered with stick-ups. And they even move out over deep water, open water, where they oftentimes suspend, making finding them a real challenge, let alone to catch. Sometimes you get a bite on every cast, and on other days, even good crappie fishermen can fish all day and catch hardly anything. In short, they're a great challenge, they're fun to catch, and they're terrific eating. And you can't really ask for much more than that of any fish. But hey, tell you what, let's get on the water and take our first crappie class. Remember what I said earlier about crappies moving into the shallow water in spring? Well, watch as good fishing research team advisor Bill Doherty and I catch shallow water slabs from a large bay on Rainy Lake, a huge lake on the Minnesota-Ontario border that has a reputation for being hard to fish. Now, we started by searching out expanses of shallow water, figuring they'd warm up before the main lake, and it paid off big time, as you're about to see. You know, if a guy's fishing real shallow water, these little adjust-a-bob things are kind of nice. Get a little bit deeper water, though, boy, there's nothing that beats the slip bobber system. No. That works fine for this, too. For the kids, the only thing I ever use for them is slip bobbers because, you know, they can wind it up and cast it so easy. If you're fishing 4 or 5 feet deep, boy, that's tough for a kid to cast with.
Real tough, and nice thing about a slip bobber is they're a little safe for casting. You don't have that hook hanging down there at 2 or 3 feet coming by your ear with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, magic depth right here. A little water. Bobber. Got about enough in there. A fat minnow and king crappie. You always hook yours just right up under the lip, don't you?
Most of the time. You know, it's when they slow down.
Time, there's another old guide's trick again?
Well, when they quit. I'll try it through the dorsal fin.
Why is that?
A little more action sometimes. Enough to trigger that strike.
Okay. Now, where'd my other bobber go? Is it gone?
No, he's still there.
Darn it. I don't know, I'm just...
That's another crappie.
When they're hitting, I'm reeling. That's, I mean... But boy, with a crappie these size, you don't reel fast. And they're pulling drag. I can get him. They're coming up and jumping. I'll get him, Bill. That's fine. Maybe I won't. See what I said?
Yeah.
Dummy? You know, I'm set.
There's a lot more where them come from.
You're a little bit deeper. I'm set almost 2 feet deep, and I've got just 4-pound class line here. String class tied to a 16th ounce quiver saw. Boy, these are big minnows. But for these guys, they're probably just a snack, huh?
They work all right. I like that in the springtime, the person going to the bait shop, if he's fishing crappies, though, should ask the guy if he can to sort out the smallest minnows you can get your hands on.
Oh, yeah?
Especially if you're fishing cold weather.
Why is that?
The fish are that much finickier, you know, and sometimes they'll take a small minnow or they just won't take the big ones.
Uh-huh. These fish seem to be hitting. I mean, they're slamming it hard. The minnows are so big, though. Boy, that cast of mine got me right on the rocks. I wonder if we shouldn't slide up in about, what, 30 feet closer?
Right, but boy, we can spook them really easy.
Yeah, that boy, isn't that a fact? Crappies are as spooky as...
Those guys, they just asked, you know, we're going to tell us, they show us how not to catch fish. Well, the one reason that they aren't catching fish is how they approach with that motor.
Sure, absolutely. They use an outboard like that and come driving in on them. People don't give crappies credit, you know.
No.
They think that they're just dumb panfish. And boy, you can catch a lot of crappies, but big crappies...
Oh, I missed one there.
Big crappies are just, I mean, they're like big fish of any species. It doesn't make any difference.
Yep. The other thing that people don't do, and especially bobber fishing, is they credit the crappie with having a paper mouth.
Uh-huh.
If you take a crappie's mouth and open it and hold it open, he looks a lot like a miniature version of a tarpon.
Yeah.
And if you look at the small bends in these hooks, most of the time the hooks are going into bone. Very seldom are you able to get it by that big lip piece. So you do need to set the hook fairly hard on them. People want to love tap them, and they generally miss a lot of fish.
Yeah, I'm afraid most folks don't set the hook hard enough.
That didn't take that one long, did it?
No, I got too close to the rock again, I think. Well, that's a good crappie there. You sure that's a crappie?
Ah, he's swimming like it. Yep, that's a crappie. Look at the size of him.
Oh, my God. That's on white again, huh?
Yep, white and pink. Quiver jig.
Oh, that's another big crappie. Look at the size of them. I can't believe it.
You remember when we first started fishing together, I told you what area of the lake has the largest average crappies.
Uh-huh. And nobody ever fishes this area of the lake for crappies either. But, you know, when you get a lake the size of Rainy...
It's, you know, there's a lot of water. There's no doubt.
And it all has crappies. All they have to do is look. You don't have to have one particular spot. It's the kind of patterns that you find them on. That's why, you know, the type of rock pile here and the shape of it and the depth of it and its proximity, that's important.
In another month, they'll switch to the type of rock they'll be on.
What do you mean?
Well, here you've got the rounded type rock. There's usually some mud around it, where if you look out in the bay a little bit, it gets jagged and that type of rock, and they'll be moving on out there as water temperatures warm up.
But here they like that mud for the insect hatches, I would guess. As well as the rocks got to work like solar heaters.
Right. Warm water and food. There's a nice fish.
Holy cow. He's pulling drag. I got it set pretty good, too. You know, I was watching your bobber. He tightened the line up. I couldn't figure out. I thought I felt movement down there.
How is he?
I couldn't figure out with a bobber. It's a nice one.
Nice crappie.
Every one of them been a pound. I mean, every one of them. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Well, here, I'll just drop it.
Well, thank you, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar, as well as one hell of a crappie guide. You know, Billy, would you do me a favor? I poured a cup of coffee before, and I stuck it right around that windshield. And I completely forgot it. I got, just like the shirt says, I got me a case of crappie fever, man. It's amazing how big guys like you and I can get worked up over little fish like, but I'm telling you.
Doesn't take much. Then you turn your back and the crop, you don't see a bobber, and I have a saying for that: when in doubt, set the hook.
That's a fact. That's why before, when I was watching your bobber, and I thought I felt something, I set the hook anyway, even though your bobber hadn't gone down. Mine was. I ain't doing nothing out there. They're swimming around this cotton-picking rock, and we may have spooked them. I'm going to go over to the other side of this puppy once. Does that reef extend out at all over here?
Yep.
Because sometimes they'll go, well, you know, I might be a little too deep, too. About 2 feet?
Try shortening it up a little bit. Here we're fishing rock. Crappie like any type of structure.
Or cover, too.
Or cover. It can be a log, a tree. Some people will be fishing a dishpan lake and they, well, I'm out there in the spring. There is no structure. Is there a weed line? If there's a weed line, that's a piece of structure you'll find them by.
Uh-huh. You know, as crappies, when they get on a certain kind of cover like this, too, they move.
Oh,
you know, that school will get in here and circle and roam it, so they don't just sit in one little area of it. Sometimes with certain kinds of cover, I've seen them do that.
Brush.
Yeah, brush or a certain type of cut in the weed line. But on this kind of structure, this is basically, what would you say the depth is of the bay here, average?
Where
6
we're
foot?
sitting right now, well, the main bay is where we're at right now. It's only maybe 4 feet at the most.
And then it's just any little pile of rocks that you find in here. Anytime you find rocks come a little shallower, huh?
Or a reed patch out here.
Boy, if this is a crappie, Bill, I'm telling you, it is in this. I mean, it's swirling out there like a big bass. They've jumped out of the water. They've done everything. Big crappies. Boy, this is as good as it gets, man. I got a big hand.
Look how fat across the back.
Oh, yeah. You know, they're just all... This has been our average fish today. So what you're saying, Bill, is you've got... Rainey itself has got great crappie fishing. Actually,
Ooh, that's a dandy crappie. Geez, they're all dandies.
Up. Boy, I'm glad I got him in. He broke my line. Little 4-pound line. Yeah, I should learn a good lesson from that crappie. When you're around this many rocks and stuff, every so many fish, you should retie.
You gotta retie them.
And he just forced me. But how come you think Rainy Lake is so good for crappies? I mean, this isn't good crappie fishing here. It's incredible crappie fishing. There's a difference.
The size of the lake, the structure it's got plenty of habitat and plenty of feed.
How many acres is Rainy?
So there's more. I don't know.
Do they measure it in acres or do they measure it in square miles?
It's got more shoreline than Lake Superior.
What?
It has more shoreline than Lake Superior.
Rainy Lake does?
Rainy Lake does.
And crappies around most of the shoreline, I imagine.
Yeah, it's divided into 7 different arms, and they all have crappies in the different areas. And there's a lot of areas that have crappies people don't even know about.
Yeah. Well, if you were
they don't
going to
get
give
in
advice to a fella and say, okay, here's the time of the year to come, what you're saying is any time of the year that would fit into his schedule, he can figure out how to catch lots of crappies up here.
That's right.
It's a heck of a place. Bill, how soon after ice out are the crappies in here?
This year it took me two days. The first day down here I didn't have any good fishing. The second day I used a temperature gauge, find the warmest water, and we started to get on fish, and we've been on them ever since, except in extreme cold fronts.
Now you mean temperature gauge, you're talking surface temperature
Surface temperature. Basically the water's 3 to 4 feet deep anyway, so it's going to be fairly accurate.
Uh-huh.
There's no given temperature, just the warmest, and I've been finding that in the mouths of the creeks. Not so much the rivers either, the creeks where you got beaver flowages, that type of thing coming in. And they locate right there. Oh, I missed a nice
right on that
crappie
side
there.
of the rock now. That school may have moved. I haven't had a bite on this side of the rock for a minute here.
And they'll come in and they'll go on the bite here in a feeding cycle for 2 to 3 weeks, and then start to spawn, because they'll carry spawn in them here. On June 15th, you'll take crappies that are still full of spawn.
Oh, sure.
And then they'll get done, and they'll still, I start looking for rock piles and that are out on the deeper part of the bay, 8 to 10 feet. There is a section of the bay that has 18 feet of water in it, and they'll stack in that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think they leave. And then in the fall again, they come up shallow again, and you'll catch them out here on the rock piles.
Yet other sections of the lake, you have really, really deep water.
Really deep water.
And all kinds of conditions. You have a ton of crappies there, too.
Right.
Their movements and patterns there are somewhat different than they are in this section of Rainy.
Quite a bit different. Out there, they're suspending over 30 and 40 feet of water halfway down, where here it's 10 feet deep maximum.
Uh-huh.
So you have a couple different patterns in the lake, but in Black Bay, they stay in here late. Last July, we caught some beautiful crappies, and again in August and September.
Well, if you start in May and you go through September, that pretty much covers it.
Pretty much the whole... Making a fool out of me.
Whoa!
With
Now
no
that's
eggs.
a good one. Hey, I was way out past that rock. Way out past it. Now, yeah, I got to try and skip him over the rock. Now he's around that son of a gun. There he
there he
comes.
slid
I
it.
got him past the rock. Straight back behind there, Bill, is where he was. Don't worry about netting him if the sucker gets off, unless he's
a 2-pounder.
Boy, he's a big crappie. Hey, this is a black one. He just moved in. Look at how black this guy is. Now, this is what the term black crappie come from. I mean, look at him. Even the gill plates are just black on the bottom. I know, Bill, it's important to have enough lake and enough cover and everything else, but I know that there's nothing like the right amount of forage that can produce a lot of big crappies. You've got to have an extremely diverse base here, huh?
Here in the springtime, it starts out, you have if you lift your anchor here, you see it's kind of a peaty type bottom. You get a lot of insect hatch out of it, which in turn will bring in your small forage fish, your darters, your small perch minnows, all that, and later on the dace minnows come into play, especially out anywhere where there's a creek. The beaver ponds are just loaded with that type of minnow, rainbow chub, dace, and they eat a ton of fish. The strange thing, you know, you've got a lot of walleye in this bay, and they don't see, this has always had a lot of crappies in it, and they don't seem to affect the walleye populations.
You don't think they're eating walleye fry then, so they're doing different things than the walleye fry do?
Yep.
Where do crappies come from? Have you always had crappies here?
We've always had them. My grandfather and my father both guided up here, you know, years ago, and I used to always hear the stories of the crappies that, you know, years ago they talked about 3-pound crappies, especially up below the waterfall at Spawn Inlet where you've been. Yeah. Before, and we've still got the big crappies, and they're now starting to get a little bit more exposure because of more people fishing. And they're fun fish. Well,
I've come up here and fished crappies with you in the fall, and it's rare that I'll come back to the same spot and film more than one thing. But the fishing here for them is so phenomenal. I mean, it's hard to not. Where'd you get him from?
Right straight out from me there.
Okay.
Oh, we found a new crappie spot.
Holy cow, there's rocks all over underneath right here. Here, I got to trim.
This is a nice fish here.
I guess that's a nice fish.
Look at that.
Oh, that was a big crappie jump completely out of the water. That was a huge crappie. You know, I'll bet you they'll hit jig spinners.
Yeah, I think I know another bait that they might hit.
What, those little baby shadlings?
Yep.
I think so,
kind of working it across the top of the water.
I've brought some along. Little number 5 babies, we can try that too. Because that's a couple of them that hit bobbers. That one came completely out of the water. I mean, completely out.
Something that the normal...
He was ways down in the bay too.
A person who's not familiar with fishing a body of water, when you're fishing crappies in shallow water, it's important to always be watching the surface, because a lot of time that's the key to your location. You can look a long time and not find fish.
What do you say?
You see them working the surface.
You see them working. Yeah, but they're not always on a feed, though.
No, but it'll give you an idea of location. The first fish we got on this spring here, that's how we happened to hit him. We were sitting fishing, and we weren't hitting anything, and we looked into the bay, and I said, geez, what's that on the surface? And you could see literally 100 tails sitting and flopping out of the water. We set our bobbers at 4 inches. We did manage to get one, and within a half hour, they were on the bite alongside the rock, and like we're fishing them now.
Huh. Oh, boy, that didn't take long. I mean, I threw it there. Whoa! This is like smallmouth fishing, the amount of fights. Look at this thing. I don't know if this maybe isn't a crappie, though. If this is a crappie, boy, I've got king crappie. I haven't even seen the fish yet. He's going sideways like a crappie does.
It's a crappie.
Ooh.
See his rudder.
No, this is a...
Look at the size of the mouth on him. Look at him.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I don't want to scoop him.
Ooh,
this one
darling.
Close to 2 pounds. I'll eat him raw. Man, just as black as black. Now, this is crappie fishing, young man.
You betcha.
Holy cow. You look at the size of that thing in comparison to my hand. It's twice. I mean, I can cover my whole hand and half my arm. Boy, just watching that brought memories back to me of a great day with a really good friend. We caught a mess of big crappies on that quiver jig and bobber setup, and it's a presentation you should experiment with in your own crappie fishing. Catching crappies, like I said earlier, is truly a sport for all ages. And when it comes to having a good time on the water with a friend, well, in my opinion, nobody's closer than somebody in your own family. Now, a while back, I took my little daughter, Danielle, to another lake for shallow water crappies. And what I had in mind was introducing her to some fast action, but what we found was big fish, and I mean really big crappies. And Danielle may have got hooked for life.
Without bobbers, I can flow.
Oh, I know you can, but let me try one cast for you to a magic spot here, okay? Now, you watch it right there. You're going to catch a crappie.
Okay.
Watch that, Barbara. I'll turn this locator off. Here, Donnie. You want to catch this one? I got a big one on here. You want to catch him?
You.
I should catch this one? Okay, I'll catch him. You keep jiggling yours, because you're going to get a big one too, probably. Oh, boy, Donnie, this is a good one. Ah. Look at how big this one is. Whew. And I'll throw it out here. Look at that guy, Donnie. What do you think about that? It's a beauty. Well, jiggle yours a little more. Wind in some line. You got to tease him sometimes, see? Okay, now pull it ahead a little bit like you just did, and then stop. That's good. Now you leave it sit there a minute. And then you pull it ahead a little bit again. And then you stop it. Ooh, there, Daddy's got one. Ooh. See, I was teasing it. I kept moving it and moving it and moving it. And finally hit it. There he goes. Oh, he missed it again. He spit it out. There, he's got it. See how I did that? I was teasing him. You want to come and fight this one?
Let's see how big it is.
Keep teasing him. Ooh, this is a really big one. Oh, my. I can't believe the size of these crappies. Man, aren't these goodies, Donnie? It's just a simple system. Now, we got to get you a crappie. Dad doesn't want to catch any more until you catch a big one, okay? Yep. Wow, now that was a good cast. That should be to a good spot, bud.
That's why you cast.
That's why you cast there? I see. Hey, you see any fish down in the water with your special fishing glasses?
I didn't look down there yet.
Well, don't get too close to the edge. You always got to be careful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember how Daddy taught you about safety?
There's some swimming with bobbers.
Ooh, Dad set the hook. And you see what happened? I caught him. Here, you want this one?
Sure.
Okay, this one's different kind of a rod and reel now. Okay, you turn it this way.
Okay.
And I'll bring... That's a biggie, isn't it?
Yep, whose is it?
That's yours now.
It is?
Yeah.
I know.
Keep him coming. Oh, you got the line here in your fingers. Okay, keep reeling here.
Okay.
There you go. Reel a little more.
I need the net! The net!
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get it. Oh, we got him.
That's my ain't it?
Look at again how big this one is.
It's the same one, ain't it?
No, this is a different one.
I got pink bobby now.
Well, you just borrowed Daddy's. Look at this one. Look at how, you want to put him in?
Sure.
Got him tight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, goes right in here. Right with those other big guys there. Nice crappie, buddy. Oh, that's okay. He missed it. Now he got it. Get him.
Ah!
Get him. You got him.
The net!
Oh, I'll get the net. Boy, Ooh, that's a big northern pike you got. Reel him. You got a big pike. Reel him up. Woo! Reel him some more. Whoa. Look at that one.
I got northern pike.
Yeah.
Mom, I got it on northern pike. Look at him. It's a northern pike. See?
How about that? That's your first northern pike, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my biggest fish.
It is. Do you like him? And I mean to tell you, little Donnie really got excited catching those big crappies. But no matter how fast the action is, I'm always sensitive to how much time I leave her out on the water, and I'm always careful for her safety at all times. I'm a firm believer, as you may have guessed, at getting people involved at fishing. But I also know it's easy to get carried away with your own enthusiasm and forget about the fact that you might be fishing with a youngster. You know, when I see Donnie's face while she lands those fish, I get the same darn feelings I had on that day. It's really special. You know, kids are also special, and they're really easy to take fishing, particularly if they get in on some good action. But remember, safety comes first, fun comes second. By the way, for you serious anglers, you might have noticed that we were finding those fish in a dark water bay off the main lake. Now, these were aggressive schools of fish, and they again fell for the deadly quiver jig and minnow combination suspended under a bobber. Now, on this next segment, we're going to take a trip across the seasons and go for late fall big slab crappies. Now, we got a whole new ball game here, because instead of the bulk of the fish being shallow, most of them are deep, sometimes real deep. And the secret to catching them is, quite simply, finding them first. At this time of the year, one key pattern quite often overlooked by most crappie fishermen is steep breaking, rocky, or hard bottom edges on drop-offs. Now, what I like to do is cruise likely areas with my paper graph on, looking for concentrations of crappies. And when you find them, it becomes a game of staying on top of them, because they not only school tightly, but they also move. But if you learn the secret to this, it can all add up to some incredible action. Let's watch.
Well, I tell you what, I've got on here one of America's favorite fish. And if it's like the other ones I've been catching, and it is, it's a large, I mean a large model. This is what you call a big crappie. Oh, hold still. A big crappie. A giant crappie is a better word, I guess. And I'm going to show you a pattern today that works on lake. First, you got to have big crappies like this in the lake. But if you do, or even small crappies, the pattern works in late fall. And in some cases, if you get the right situation, works awful well. Now, what I'm doing is this. In a nutshell, it's late fall. I'm in northern Minnesota, back by my home, on one of the typical little natural lakes here. It's got a lot of panfish, like a lot of lakes. Well, the big crappies in fall after turnover into October, they'll move up on very steep rock breaks. Sometimes they're inside corners, sometimes they're little points. It might be just a section of shoreline with one little area of rock in it that's deep. Right here it's 30 to 35 feet of water where I'm fishing, and they're holding right off of the edge. You can see it on the graph. I'm using an 1/8 ounce white, or pink white quiver jig here. It's a pretty bright day and it's quite clear water here. That's the reason for the white, and I like the pink on it for a little bit of contrast. And just simply hooking a minnow, you know, right up. I'll show you. Whoop. Boy, this is another beauty. These are big crappies. Oh. Ooh, these are giant crappies. Ah, look at how golden that thing is. You know, usually you never even have to worry about netting crappies. But boy, when you're catching fish like this, I don't want to take any chances. The crappies aren't like other fish. I mean, I'm into catch and release as much as anybody. As a matter of fact, I was one of the forerunners in the industry that taught people about it over the years. But crappies are different. You know, there's usually so many of them in a lake that it's no problem to take home 11. I'm not saying if you got a freezer full of fish, you got to keep them, obviously, throw them back. But usually, in almost all cases, crappies and bluegill, there's so many of them around that it's a healthy thing to do to take out some of the population, because if there's too many of them, they wind up getting stunted. This is the kind of an afternoon, you know. Oh, there we are. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good fish. Man, these things fight. Of course, they're big crappies. You know, I guess a guy can expect that. Ooh. This isn't a... Get out of there. This isn't a big crappie. This is a humongous crappie. Look at that. That's a giant. You know, most people think about going fishing, pan fishing crappies in the summer months when it's so warm out. But I don't know about you. Boy, I got you good. There we go. But tell you what, I'd blaze a snowstorm or about any other kind of bad weather to catch crappies this size. Try that fall pattern. It's productive.
What a great way to spend a day, being outdoors and catching big fish. And I don't know about you, but being on the water really builds up an appetite for me. So tell you what, let's go see what my wife Charlie has cooked up for us from her Strictly Fish cookbook. And I tell you another thing, you'll learn how crappies earned another part of their reputation.
Hi, I'm Charlie Winkelman, and thanks for joining me for today's delicious recipe I've chosen from the pages of my Strictly Fish cookbook. Today's recipe is called Crunchy Crappies. It's one of my family's favorites, and I know it'll become one of yours too, if you give it a try. Now, beginning with ingredients, here's what you'll need. 2 pounds of crappie fillets, 1 egg, 2 cups of finely crushed buttered flavored crackers, 1 1/2 teaspoon onion powder, 2 teaspoons garlic salt, 1/2 cup of beer, and some cooking oil. Start by mixing the garlic salt and onion powder together. Then sprinkle a 1/2 teaspoon of it over the fillets. Then add the rest of the seasonings into the cracker crumbs. Now beat the egg and beer together, dip the fillets into it, and shake into the cracker crumbs until well coated. Now in about 1/4 inch cooking oil, fry for about 4 minutes. That's 2 minutes on each side, or until golden brown. And there you have it, crunchy crappies. Simple, delicious, and I'm sure it'll become one of your favorites too.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, crappies present a tough challenge when they're suspended out over deep open water. And believe me, that's true. Crappies can be in lots of places, from mid-lake sunken islands to weedy flats to deep weed lines to the edges of points. But when their food, minnows and insects, are out over deep water, not related to any structure at all, the crappies will be out there too. And as you're going to see in this next segment, catching open water crappies really can be a game of hide and seek. Not only finding them can be tricky, but quite often it requires an exacting presentation as well, as you're about to see.
There's a few key factors with working suspended fish with a jig like this that are important. Number 1 is a high visibility line, and I'm using 4-pound test. You can use 6-pound too, or 2-pound. One's a little heavy as far as I'm concerned for crappies, and one a little light. Secondly, it needs to be high visibility line so you can watch it going out. As I'm just letting line out here, I'm letting that little jig sift right, sift right down to the bottom. And you just see it twitch. There ain't much. Ooh, that's better. Hold still here, kid. Hold still, will you? I'll get you in a minute. Probably better to use a net on these puppies, but that's a pretty nice crappie, huh? A 3/4 pound. Called eating slabs. But see, if you're watching that line and paying very close attention, it's such an exciting way to catch crappies because to me, fishing a bobber is not near as exciting. Now, I do that somewhat, and we're going to cover a technique with bobber fishing here shortly as well, because I'm telling you, I got the fish found. Also, I've got a little bitty rod here. Whoops. I didn't get over to that school. This rod is a 5-foot, let me show you quickly, 5'1" ultralight rod, and it's extremely sensitive for throwing 1/8 ounce and 16th ounce jigs. Sometimes you're going to have to go to 16th and 32nd ounce jigs even to make it filter really softly down through the school. Other times, like now, I'm fishing, it's almost 26 feet here, so I'm using an 1/8 ounce jig, and the fish are pretty aggressive. The more aggressive they are, the heavier I'll use a jig, or the heavier jig I'll use, because the faster you can catch them. You know, I got that thing almost all the way back. There's more crappies here. Boy, look at this. Now, I'm telling you, you can look at that. You see what I'm sitting on? That's what I mean. by being on top of the fish. And that's why I'm not having to make little casts at all. I'm just flipping it right out on top of the fish, or sometimes doing them right over. You can see my marker right across. A lot of times these scrappies, see, when they suspend in summer, they'll suspend, or in fall for that matter, in big clouds like this, and they won't be spread out over the bottom most of the time. They'll be in big clouds like a silo, if you will, just a big tower of fish. So I'll put a marker buoy right directly alongside of them, and then I know exactly where to cast. So I can make each cast productive, because if you're 5 feet off the fish, I mean, or 10 feet off the fish, and particularly in water this color, like, ooh, ah. Now, did you notice that? When I, ooh, boy. This could be a nicer crappie. When I threw that jig out, I just let it filter right down through the fish. I didn't engage the reel, and it wasn't pendulum-like. Well, this is a nice crappie. Ooh, yeah. Another one. It's a fighting 3/4 pounder, that's all. Hold still. Yeah, hold still. The point is simply this. Watch my jig here. When I cast it out and let it hit the water, I didn't engage the reel, and the jig free falls right down like so, straight down into the crappies. They'll come up and take them like so. Now, what too many folks do with this kind of a method, they make a mistake. As soon as the bait hits the water, they engage the reel. And they may not wind on the handle, but they engage it, so as the bait's falling, it goes like this through the water in a pendulum motion. And for some reason that I don't necessarily understand, the crappies are not real crazy about that by comparison. Now, with the slip bobber technique, you pin the minnow down like this, and then you hook him right here underneath the dorsal fin. So you get a lot of action, and he swims and suspends down, just like so. Like anything else, the more little details, whoops, that you pay attention to, the more fish that you're apt to catch. It's that simple. And whether it's, you know, 40-pound muskies I'm going after, 400-pound tuna, or 4-ounce crappies, to me, every little detail and every little trick makes it that much more exciting and that much more fun. That's why I don't like to only do one particular thing for crappies. Oh, there we go, it's going down again. Like every other kind of fishing, paying attention to details is, I mean, it's critically important. This is a little better crappie. Ooh, he's really going for it. I'm going to have to get a net on this guy. Ooh, that's a nice crappie, but on 2-pound line, you have to net him, I'm telling you. 2-pound line, you haven't got... Oh, come here. That's a fat crappie. You got no opportunity on 2-pound line. Come here. Boy, these guys are hitting this morning. And that's a scrappy crappie, huh? I'm getting pretty nice mess of craps in there already. Get this thing set down here. And go back and see if we can get another one on slip bobber.
You know, there have been a lot of little secrets passed along on this tape, and they all add up to one thing: understanding, finding, and catching crappies. And that adds up to fun. And that, I really believe, is what fishing was meant to be. No matter how young or old you are, no matter how much fishing you've done, I think you've got to agree crappies fit just fine. They're a fish you never outgrow. In fact, they're a fish you can truly grow into. They really are a fish for all ages. So until you see me out on a calm springtime day teaching my kids how to catch crappies, hey, good fishing.
Now, in addition to Babe's highly praised Facts of Fishing video library, we're proud to present his new Fishing Secrets line of instructional tapes. This new series has taken the fishing industry by storm, and after you watch one yourself, we think you'll understand why they're America's hottest collection of how-to fishing videos. And if you'd like an up-to-date listing of all of Babe Winkelman Productions videotapes, just ask the dealer where you either bought or rented this tape. They'll be glad to help you. And let's not forget, Babe has authored 6 books so far in his comprehensive guide series. Titles include Walleye Patterns, considered by most serious walleye anglers to be the Bible of modern walleye fishing technique. Then there's Fishing Canada, which is literally the angler's roadmap to this last great fishing frontier. And then there's Largemouth Bass Patterns, the book that explains Babe's complete system for taking one of America's most sought-after game fish. Then there's Jig and Live Bait Fishing Secrets, in which the basic fundamentals and advanced methods for taking trophy sport fish are explained in Babe's easy-to-understand style. And then there's his newly rewritten book on fish locators. This up-to-date version is a must if you're considering buying a depth sounder or just aren't getting enough out of the one you presently own. And finally, there's the Strictly Fish Cookbook, co-authored by Babe's talented wife, Charlie. Now, this isn't just another book of ho-hum recipes, but rather it's a guide covering everything from field care to mouth-watering table fare. And don't forget Babe's Good Fishing Audio Cassette Series either. Based on solid information he's gathered in his over 15 years of professional fishing. These 4 tapes will be a valuable addition to any angler's arsenal of fishing knowledge. And to see what you've been missing while fishing, you've got to pick up a pair of his fisherman's favorite polarized sunglasses. Hey, these are absolutely the best there are. They come in your choice of gray or amber with glass lenses, side shields, neck strap, and a protective floating case. Hey, once you try these, you'll wonder how you ever fished without them. And you can be a part of Babe's Good Fishing research team by wearing any of his official line of hats, shirts, jackets, rainwear, vests, and patches. Most of Babe Winkelman's quality products can be found at leading tackle, video, sporting goods, and department stores nationwide. But if unavailable in your area, write to us for a free catalog of Babe's complete video and product merchandise line. Just write to us at Babe, Post Office Box 407, Brainerd, Minnesota 56401. Again, that's Babe, Post Office Box 407, Brainerd, Minnesota 56401. And we'll get a catalog off to you the very day we receive your request for one. And remember to make a habit of watching Babe's Good Fishing television show, which we're proud to say is the largest and most watched fishing program in the entire world, thanks to you, the educated fishermen. And most importantly, we want you to know that you can continue to count on Babe Winkelman Productions to remain the leader in the fishing information field. Because after all, we're the company that's teaching America to fish.